Alright, so what I'm going to be doing here is working on a small drawing. Well, actually, more accurately, drawing a figure small on a panel of my comic book page here. It's a 2-page spread. So as I look at the reference here, obviously this is my own drawing here from a previous comic book page from the same comic book series, and the challenge here is working to draw a part of this panel that features a figure that's going to ultimately be reproduced small on the actual printed page. So here I'm checking out, okay, what pencil do I want to use for this? Because I have the primary pencil that I use, which is a little rougher, as you can see here. I'm switching it to a finer tip here for my pencil drawing phase as I get into this portion. Trying to figure out, because I am going to be drawing this small, I want to have a finer pencil tip as I do this. So one that's not as rough, and I'm referencing the drawing there for some details. So yeah, as I begin drawing this, I'm going to actually speed this up a little bit. Alright, so that's going to speed things up a little bit more as I talk through this artwork I'm doing for this page. When I'm drawing something like this and I'm working digitally in particular, this isn't so much an issue if you're working traditional and you're drawing to like the standard 11x17 comic book artboard, but it can be. When I'm working digitally, you have to keep in mind, again, that the artwork needs to be drawn so that there's clarity from two perspectives. The first one is obviously has to do with storytelling, but the second one has to be concerns itself more with a technical aspect, which is not drawing too much detail in an image that ultimately is going to be reproduced small. One of the challenges with this particular character, Jelena, from my Realm Ethereal comic book series, is that there's so many details in her costume that number one, I can't draw it straight up from memory, and that maybe has to do more with the fact that I have not drawn the character a whole lot. My comic book series does have quite the ensemble cast of characters, so I can't draw this character off the top of my head like the way someone could probably draw Batman or Superman, because their costumes are much more simple. This character, the history behind this character is that she actually started out many years ago as a sketch drawing in one of my spiral sketchbooks from college. I'm going to see if I can cut this in the video here so you can see what that actually looks like. I eventually decided to paint the character, which was, in fact, I even painted the character twice, I think, 3 times actually. I will see if I could put images of that in this video, because this will give you some insight now as an artist where my characters come from. Now that I think about that, as I record this video, I remember that, yeah, I did this figure a long time ago, and I've created it in several iterations in paintings and drawings. But anyway, getting back to this drawing, having to simplify the costume, which again, not a very simple costume to draw, the challenge here is to make sure that the details are readable on the printed page. It might be a different view on digital if it was on my website, because you can probably zoom in, but I always try to produce the artwork from a print perspective, because I want to make sure that the storytelling is clear, the artwork is clear, nothing gets too muddied up. And I know you can do a lot of things with coloring, which I will be doing that. I do the whole thing on this comic book series that I'm working on here, my Realm Ethereal series, and I have to take into account, as I'm drawing this, again, that scale factor. So here I start off with, again, as you saw me here, I did a lot of the body work, underneath a looser sketch, putting another layer on top, and I'm just figuring out the basic anatomy. It's almost like drawing a nude figure without any of the details. What I'm doing is just drawing, where the shoulder is, because I need to figure out where I'm going to put this part of her costume, kind of like this. It's an elaborate, upper torso kind of. It's not really armor, but it kind of has that appearance that it could be. In reality, I envisioned it as being something like a leather or something malleable, not armor. but it's definitely very intricate. And so drawing the figure underneath, keeping, you know, the details like where are the chest, or, you know, her breasts, where are they underneath, and how does the costume fit over that. These are all the things that I work on, especially in this particular instance where I'm trying to get the basics of the costume in place, but also keeping in mind that I need to simplify things. And I'm not going to put every single detail in there because it just would not look right because of the reduction of the size of the artwork. The artwork on this particular board that I'm working on is in Procreate, but the board itself is 22 by 17, I think, and because this size of this page is going to be different than what I've done before in the previous 3 issues, it is going to be traditional comic book size, which I don't have those dimensions with me right now. I don't know what they are, but previously I had been doing something that was more along the proportions of 8.5 by 11 because I just wanted the artwork to be different. But now I'm kind of conforming to the standard comic book size because that's what I want to do. So that's important. And here we're going to take a look at the actual character that I painted, this Jelena character. She's an ethereal guard, and here's the original painting. Pretty elaborate, and I think I went balls to the wall crazy with all the detail because I never thought I would make this into a comic book at the time. It was just a one-off character painting, and I put all this crazy detail in the painting. But again, this was actually based on a drawing, which again I may have already shown, but if not, I will definitely put that here so you can see that. Started out as a drawing, and then as an original sketch drawing in one of my sketch journals, spiral bound sketchbooks. And so that's where that character came from. And so I'm carrying that through, and, you know, using, again, going back to the after the painting reference, using the comic book version of that character, which even on itself is still even more shorthanded if I have to compare it to the painting we just saw, because it's just crazy. In all honesty, I regret utilizing this same character in the terms of the costume, and I will probably, to be truthful, will change up her costume because there is going to be a couple of costume changes. I think that's kind of cool to do. I mean, I like doing comic books because I love the figure drawing aspect of it all. I like my comics to be colorful. I like to have a large ensemble cast of characters to draw from. That's both literal and figuratively speaking for stories and things like that. So as I'm working on this, again, I zoom out just to make sure that I'm keeping it, you know, I have to remind myself again of the scale. Like here is one of my previously printed, in fact, this is the 3rd issue, which precedes this 4th issue I'm working on. And you can see that as I zoom out, the scale of it, it's going to be tiny when I draw the character we're working on now. Let me go ahead and zoom back in. And I have to keep that in mind as I'm drawing. It's going to be tiny. This drawing here of the gal of Jelena that we're really zoomed in on. So I just have to keep that in mind constantly. As I do this work here, you know, let's get that hand drawn in. The level of detail you'll see in my pencil drawing here for this page is going to be the bare minimum for what I do for my own inking afterward. I think if I was to do this as strictly as a penciler, I would definitely make it tighter drawings, because I think that's important. I never had anyone ink my artwork, and that might be different if over the years a penciler develops a pretty good working relationship with an inker, a skilled inker who knows how to interpret your style, yet has enough of their own voice in their brushwork or their line work to create you know, a very harmonic union of line and spotting of dark areas to create a very, you know, pleasing image for a comic book storytelling. But, you know, working with in Procreate here, it's very nice to be able to know that I have so many safety wires, or, you know, safety nets, because again, working digitally, and I've talked about this before, is, especially in Procreate, because it's so versatile in my opinion, is the ability to just almost like be super frivolous with how I put my lines down, because I know that I can ultimately erase or digitally erase something, or have it on a safety layer and then check it out and rotate it and do all that stuff. But you know, that doesn't mean that the work that I'm drawing is any easier to pull off, because I'm still having to figure out proportions or get those perspective shots, you know, correct, or use reference. Like right here, I just decided, or I spotted the sword was slightly off the handle. You know, I need to make sure that looks correct, even though the artwork is going to be, again, reduced really small. And in all truth, I will probably fade the character back and make the coloring of the character, I'll probably do it like maybe a light blue or a light orange, just to push the character back, and so that way there isn't so many details showing up on the character back here. I mean, the character needs to be in the scene, but it doesn't need to have all that much emphasis placed on the character. And it's a pretty dynamic scene here that I'm drawing, but again, getting back to the character, it still needs to be correct. You know, it's got to be presented correctly and drawn correctly as I work on this here. So as we're working on this, you know, again, double checking with the size. I think what I'm going to do here is see if I can duplicate this. What's nice about Procreate is I can duplicate a layer in let's see, why isn't this working? Trying to select that. Paste. Let's see, something is happening here. What is? Oh, I've got too many layers. Okay. Okay, let's merge that, and we'll try that again. Select the character, duplicate it, and then it darkens it. So after I've done that, I got to make sure I adjust that slightly, and I want it too dark, and then I'll just merge the layers. So yeah, you have to be careful with Procreate. Definitely, you can have too many layers depending on the size of your canvas. And this is a pretty large canvas size because it is a 2-page spread, meaning I've taken two 11 by 17 artboards, if you will, and merged them. So always be careful of that. The larger you go with Procreate, as far as your canvas, the fewer layers you can have, and that also is tied into the resolution. So I use a resolution of 300 dpi for this, almost like as I was working traditionally, just because I want that artwork to be, if I ever needed to print it out to full scale, I do want it to be able to hold up at that 11 by 17 inch size. So here I'm just doing the final touches on the character, which is, again, talking about the detail and complexity. These wings are just crazy. They're just, man, they're nuts the way I just drew them. I threw everything in there except the kitchen sink. You have these like eyeballs on these like butterfly wings with these horns coming off the top of the wings that you can see in the reference image, comic book image on the left here, the final character from a previously drawn panel. And she's even got like these like golden, yeah, I don't know what they are. They just cool stuff I drew and painted at the time. But yeah, like I said, I'm probably going to end up seriously simplifying a lot of these costumes. Hers is one of the more complex ones, to be in all honesty. So, and there have been a few that have been really super complex. So here are those horns I was talking about that are not coming out of her head. They're coming out of the wings. It just kind of looks like they're coming out of her head if you just see her front on. So this is, you know, again, having to make sure the character fits. And then what I like to do afterward is I like to kind of sketch out or paint out the background. I have several layers here, and so I paint over the pencil rough on the bottom, and that really just cleans things up, because I was using that pencil rough as I was doing the tighter pencils here as a guide to, obviously that's the reason why I do it. I go from thumbnail to rough sketch, and then finally with this finer pencil. So that's how it's done. Pretty much this is a process that, you know, over the years I've developed, is just having to learn how to just draw to scale and just keeping that in mind when I work. That's it. Proportions and scale. Always keep it in mind.